We've all been there before. You go onto an app wanting to scroll for a little bit, look at some videos, maybe check in with your friends. And next thing, 30 minutes to an hour has passed. And I'm not pointing any fingers here because I am definitely guilty of this myself. But this is a problem that I think many people can relate to. So today, I wanted to talk about why you should really consider stopping, putting down your phone, turning off the TV, looking away from the computer screen, and just enjoying your own company. I want to make something clear though, before I dive into these points. It is not that I think social media is bad or that everyone should completely cut it out of their life. What I mean is that we need to be more aware of how much time we re-spending on these apps and whether they re-actually contributing to our well-being. So let's jump right into it. No. 1, it can negatively impact your self-esteem and body image. Now, I know that this might seem obvious to some of you, but we shouldn't underestimate the effects that social media can have on our mental health. These apps are designed to be addictive and often present an unrealistic and heavily edited version of reality. Whether it's influencers promoting a certain diet or showing off their seemingly perfect lives, it's important to remember that what you see online is not always what it seems. We need to start questioning everything we see on these apps because comparing ourselves to others is a recipe for disaster. If you compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, you might feel like you're falling behind or that your life is less successful or fulfilling. But in reality, everyone's journey is different and we all have our own unique challenges and accomplishments. Social media often only highlights the best moments of people's lives and leaves out the messy, awkward, and sometimes mundane parts that make up the rest of our days. That's why it's important to be aware of the messages that these apps are sending us and to be mindful of how they might be affecting our own sense of self-worth. Remember, you're so much more than what you see on social media. Number 2, it can make you feel lonely. Ironically, even though social media is supposed to connect us with other people, it can actually do the opposite and make us feel more isolated and lonely. Let me explain. When we spend too much time on these apps, we might start to neglect our real-life relationships and the people who are actually in our lives. Instead, we might find ourselves spending hours scrolling through feeds, liking posts, and commenting on other people's lives. But these interactions are often superficial and don't really satisfy our deep-seated need for connection and belonging. What's worse is that seeing other people as envy-inducing posts and the highlight reels of their lives can make us feel like our own lives are less fulfilling and that we're missing out on something. This feeling of loneliness and isolation can be especially harmful to our mental health, leading to feelings of sadness, disconnection, and despair. So it is important to be aware of how much time we're spending on social media and to make sure that we restill, prioritizing our real-life relationships and connections. Number 3, it can cause anxiety and stress. Now, you might not realize it at first, but constantly being bombarded with notifications and messages on these apps can really start to take a toll on our mental health. The pressure to respond right away to every message or comment can be overwhelming and leave us feeling anxious and stressed. And it's not just the constant stream of notifications that can cause these feelings. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is also a major factor. When we constantly comparing ourselves to others and feeling like we need to be plugged in at all times to stay connected, it can lead to a constant state of anxiety and stress. So if you're restarting to feel like you're losing control of your time and that these apps are dictating when you're available and when you need to be responsive, it might be time to take a step back and reassess your relationship with them. Number 4, it can interfere with your work and studies. Now, I know how tempting it can be to open your phone during breaks or study sessions to check your notifications or scroll through your feed. But doing this too often can seriously mess with your productivity and focus. When you constantly switch between tasks and give in to the urge to check your phone, you're essentially giving up your attention and focus to these apps. Your brain needs time to get into a flow state in order to focus and be productive. But every time you get distracted by your phone, you're resetting that timer and starting over. The more you do this, the harder it becomes to get into a state of flow, and it doesn't just affect your ability to focus. The constant pressure to be available and responsive to messages and comments can lead to a feeling of guilt and anxiety. You might feel like you should be working or studying, but the allure of your phone is just too strong to resist. This back and forth between work and your phone can lead to decreased productivity, lower grades, and missed opportunities. So it is important to set boundaries around your phone use and create a space for yourself where you can work and study without distraction. No. 5. It can disrupt your sleep schedule. Now, I know how tempting it can be to pick up your phone before bed to scroll through your feed or catch up on your messages, but doing this too often can really mess with your sleep schedule and quality of sleep. The blue light emitted from your phone's screen can trick your brain into thinking it as still daytime, making it harder to fall asleep. And it's not just the blue light that can disrupt your sleep. The content you see on your phone, such as videos or messages, can be stimulating and exciting, which can make it even harder to wind down for bed. Instead of reaching for your phone, try reading a book, listening to calming music, or practicing mindfulness to help you relax and prepare for sleep. If you do need to use your phone, consider using a blue light filter or wearing blue blocking glasses to reduce the amount of blue light that reaches your eyes. So if you're struggling to fall asleep or stay asleep, it might be worth considering whether your phone habits are contributing to the problem. 6. It can decrease your ability to empathize with others. This one is quite interesting and might not be something you've thought about before. But hear me out, when we spend too much time on social media, we can start to become less empathetic towards others. Here's why. Social media often presents a highlight reel of people's lives, showcasing the best moments and leaving out the messy, complicated parts. This can create a sense of envy and make us compare ourselves to others, which can lead to negative feelings like jealousy or resentment. When we start to focus on our own perceived shortcomings and feel envious of others, it can make it harder to empathize with their experiences. Additionally, the anonymous nature of social media can also contribute to this issue. When interacting with others online, we may feel less of a need to consider their feelings or perspectives, which can lead to more hurtful or insensitive comments. Overall, reducing our social media consumption can help us focus on the people in our own lives and cultivate deeper empathy and understanding towards them. And no, 7, it can ruin your relationships. This is something that I personally struggle with and I'm actively trying to improve on. I realize that I sometimes prefer communicating through text instead of having an actual conversation with someone, which I know is not healthy. It is easy to get sucked into the world of social media and forget about the people who are actually in our lives. When we spend too much time on these apps, we might start to neglect our friends and family, not realizing that they need our attention and care. It is easy to fall into the trap of comparing our relationships to those we see on social media, which can make us feel like our own relationships are lacking. But the truth is, social media presents a distorted view of reality, and what we see online is often not an accurate representation of what's happening in real life. When we start to fixate on the relationships we see on social media, we might start to feel envious or resentful towards our own relationships, which can lead to decreased satisfaction and even conflict. Taking a break from social media can help us focus on the relationships in our own lives and appreciate them for what they are. I hope that these points gave you some insight into why it can be beneficial to take a break from social media. I am definitely guilty of spending way too much time on my phone, and I am actively trying to improve on this. But I wanted to share this with you guys because I think it is important to be aware of how these apps can impact our lives. I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you agree that it can be beneficial to take a break from social media? If so, what are some ways that you've been able to limit your screen time? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.